Dave, where are you from? Where's home?
Down out of Russell, PA, up on Sweet Hill Road, they call it, kind of up in the boondocks a little bit. That's the old original homestead.
And that's where your family came from? And
Yep, they bought the first piece of property back in like 1876, I believe.
oh, no kidding.
And my wife and I lived there. There's like 223 acres there.
And growing up, did you go to Russell School?
Yeah, I went to the Russell Elementary School.
Right.
And then Eisenhower, I forget what year they opened. I went up there and went 7 through 12 and graduated in '64.
You graduated in '64, and as part of that education, did you guys learn anything about your native son in that area, Robert Jackson? Was that any part of your work?
That really wasn't a big subject down there for some reason. I mean, I vaguely remember seeing the name in the history books. I read a lot more about him after school than I did in school, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well, when you get done with this place, maybe you can go up to the Robert Jackson Center and learn.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about him. Like I said, I'm a reader. I'm an outdoorsman, but I'm also a reader. I like to read.
And you're here today principally because you and Keith are buds. And you know that Randy Anderson, of course, is a race car fanatic. So how did you get interested in race car driving?
Well, when I graduated, it was just kind of a neat place to go up the state line. And my neighbor, we had a dairy farm, our neighbor, Keith Lundmark, he was a big name at State Line Speedway. He was good for a long time. So that kind of got me the bug. It was a dirt road then. Heck, he'd run his up and down the road all the time. So when I got one, of course, I had to do the same thing. But that really got me going on the sportsman class. That's what Keith was running then.
So what was your first memory of State Line Speedway?
Oh, how dirty you get the first time you're out on that track. You come out of there, your face is completely covered with dirt. You take your goggles off, and that was the only clean spot on your whole body. But I loved it right from the word go. I really enjoyed doing it, and I was good enough so I was competitive, which made it more fun too.
Well, Dave, when you went up there in the early days before you started racing, do you remember any of the drivers that sort of were role models who you sort of followed aside from Keith?
Well, not really. I liked watching guys like Squirt Johns. I loved watching him. I watched stock cars a lot. Oh, Squirt and Sammy Lamancuso and them guys, you know. And I never went in the pits then. It just, once I started driving the sportsman, I got to know all these people, which was kind of, especially the sportsman class, but also there were a lot of stock car drivers too.
Was that something that was of interest to you at any time, to get a stock car?
No, the big problem with me, I was a country boy. I didn't have backing from different companies and car dealerships, and I didn't have the money myself to really start on one. The main reason when I quit sportsman was because they went to V8s, and you were talking a lot of money then, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
When you decided that you got the bug and you'd try it, did you get your own car? Did you put it together? And what kind of car was it?
I bought a Sportsman from Barry Thompson. Russ Thompson ran cars up there a long time, Johnny Whitehead and that bunch. And I got to know them just, and Barry built a car. I think he only ran it 1 year, I believe. And he put it up for sale. And I ran right over and bought it. I think it was $600 I paid for it. Had a 240 in it, and nice looking car, and I worked on it. It had a little damage to it, but nothing bad. And we run it and did good with it. I just had friends of mine. I couldn't afford to pay anybody, but friends of mine, they thought that was pretty neat, getting to go to the racetrack and go in the pits and stuff. So I didn't even have a truck end to tow with. A couple friends of mine towed it all the time. I did the State Line and Erie circuit.
Right.
So
when was your first race? What year was this?
We believe it was 66 or 7. I'm not positive now. I'm not positive, but my first year was my best. I finished 4th overall in the State Line Erie circuit. And I looked for the program from the race banquet that year, and I couldn't find it. I thought I had it at home, but I couldn't find it because they had all the drivers' names, and a few of them I don't remember, but a lot of them I do. And I really enjoyed it, and I was fairly good at it. I never got great. I never had the money to really sink a lot of money into it.
So what number did you have, Dave?
34, that was my number in high school basketball. Keith and I played basketball together. And that was my number, so that's what I stuck to all these years. Playing softball for 40 years, 34, I had to have it. So that's how I come up with that.
What kind of car did you have again?
Well, it was Sportsman. Barry built it. It was a Dodge body, a Ford motor, Chevy transmission, and Buick rear end.
A mongrel.
Yeah, but it was a perfect combination of gearing and stuff. It was a 240 Ford, where most of the people up there were running 300 Fords and 292 Chevys, but that 240 ran right with them. It was sweet, and I didn't even have the money to put into a 300. We started to build one year and ran into some problems with it. And that's the year I ended up, I just couldn't, that's the year they went to the V8s.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that, just too much money.
So your time frame of running was from 66 through?
67, 68,
Okay.
68 probably.
See, who were the guys that were the ones you, when you got on the track, you said, I hope I beat him tonight? You're the kind of top dogs.
Well, Ronnie Blackmer, Skip Furlow, they were two of the big names. Johnny Whitehead, of course. And then there were some just plain good guys that were like Stan Stevens. Stan was a heck of a good guy. He's one of them guys that he'd actually help a young guy out, you know, and appreciate it. Johnny Whitehead was good about it too. And I got to know a lot of the other ones that I was competitive with, like a Bruce Green, great guy, and hard to remember all the names now, I'll tell you the truth. But I was competitive, and that made me happy.
If you were kind of cruising along, did you have any wins, Dave?
A lot of semis and stuff, but
Yeah.
never a feature.
So was there guys in your class that weren't shy about moving you around?
Oh yeah, there's always a few of them. I can't really think of which ones they were now, but they didn't bother me much because I didn't bother them. I tried to be clean about things. I remember one time, I believe it was Keith Hartley's cousin, Ken, drove Sportsman, and I was having a good race, and every time I come in, he'd block me in the corner blocking. So finally on the front straight, I just drove into him, bang! Didn't wreck him, just rattled his head a little bit, and then he moved over, so everything was fine after that. Because the bumpers we had, we put channel iron on them. Heck, you couldn't hurt him by doing that, but I still remember that right in the front straightaway. I just boom, just to move them out. And best race I ever had was State Line had a special 150 lap race, 75 laps in 2 different segments. And the second segment I ran in, I was running third, and there wasn't that long to go, and then somebody lost a wheel in front of me, and I hit it and broke a tie rod. I had a chance to win because I was running like third, and I was right up there, and that was very depressing, but it's like, well, it's racing,
Yeah.
you know.
In the pits themselves, sometimes things happen on the racetrack. Did you ever see where there was sort of post-race exercise of energy?
Oh yeah, you'd see that every once in a while. I never got involved in any because I tried to drive hard, but I tried to be careful too. I didn't want to mess other people up, and I saw Ronnie Blackmer get into it with somebody one night, and actually saw Bobby Snars wasn't happy with somebody night. I remember that. Then sometimes the mechanics would get into it also, you know. Not a lot though, not a big deal. It didn't turn into rumbles or anything, just letting the guy know you weren't happy with what he did.
Yeah.
But I never had any problems with any of them up there. I was happy about that.
And during that time period, the owners were Len Briggs and the Frank brothers and
Williams.
Williams, yes, Lloyd Williams, thank you. Did you have any relationship with those guys?
Well, Lloyd Williams' daughter married a good friend of mine, Louis Michael was his name, and he actually towed my racer for me quite a bit. So that's kind of how I got to know Lloyd a little bit better. The other ones, I knew him to say hi to him and stuff, but yeah, Lloyd's daughter married that friend of mine, and yeah, Louis, because he had a 3/4 ton truck back then. I didn't even have a truck. So he told me a lot to Erie and State Line. So I did get to know Lloyd fairly well. But
Did Did you ever drive the car from your house up to state line? It's not that far.
And no, you couldn't do that. They were a little loud, and they didn't like steering on pavement real well either.
Yeah.
That was kind of shaky. We had a dirt road. It did go up and down dirt road a few times with Keith Hartley, or Keith Lundmark, my neighbor there, because he used to run his up and down. I wouldn't be racing them up there just if you were tuning it up or something, just to see how it sounded, run up and down the road a few times.
Yeah, I
but
love it.
that was about it. Yeah, we just use a tow bar and pickup truck, and away we went.
Did you do the work on your car at your house, in the barn? Or?
Yeah, we had a barn down there and did all our own work. It didn't matter what it was. Couldn't afford to take it anywhere else, but we had a couple trees there we'd use for a frame straightener, you know, with a come along. Down in the barn, we had our chain hoist. We had to change something. We did that, but yeah, we did all our own work. We had no choice. Fortunately, I had good friends that would help me out because no pay involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did all our own work. But I loved it. You'd be up all night a lot of times. You get in a wreck at State Line, you had to get ready for Erie the next day. Go out there, you only had 2-3 hours sleep, but it was time to race again.
Yeah. Other than Erie's or State Line, did you go anyplace else?
A couple other places. I was trying to think where we went. Smethport, went down there once or twice. Can't remember the other track. Dick Gage was helping me on the car then. He had a garage. And we went someplace else too. I can't even remember now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember going to Smethport.
Did you, was there something on the track at some point during that 3-year time period where you said, Greg, you're not going to believe what I just saw. It may not have impacted you, but something ahead of you, you say, holy cow, I can't believe that happened.
No, not really. I never saw anything spectacular out there or anything else. I got a good view of the cement wall on 2 once. My brake system and accelerator were locked together on the frame, and somebody hit me right there, lost my brakes and jammed the accelerator down, so I went head on into that cement wall. And that Chevelle frame in the front just crumpled the whole thing. Didn't hurt me any, but we had a little trouble towing it home. But had another frame on it next week, ready to go.
Oh my gosh.
So.
Where did you get replacement parts? Were there enough auto parts areas?
Yeah, back then you
junkyard?
could still do that.
Yeah.
I could get motor parts. The transmissions were fairly common. Biggest problem was the older Buick rear end they had. And a guy I worked with had an old 41 Buick sitting out back, so I got a rear end out of that. But other than that, back then you could find the trannies and stuff. All the junkyards had them.
Yeah.
So that wasn't too bad. So that helped a lot. Because it was tough money-wise. They didn't pay that much, and I didn't have my own money just to throw around. I had some money, but not enough to upgrade a lot of things I'd have liked to have, but that's the way it
Were
goes.
you working the farm or were you working in Akeley at the time?
I was working down to Louisville Slugger in Akeley then.
Well, let's segue, because now you got I can't believe it. This is unbelievable. So, you working at the bat factory,
Yep.
where they're just making the,
Larimer Norton.
yep, and just for the camera, people may not know that down there in Russell, Pennsylvania, the Louisville Bats started.
#1 plant of Louisville Sluggers right there in Akeley.
Yeah.
A guy named Irv Norton started it, a brilliant man. He built all these fancy machines and stuff. And Dan Larimer was the money man behind him. That's why it's always been called Larimer and Norton. And we played basketball with Norton's son in school, and he followed us. So I started working there the day I was 18. I stayed there 9 years. Southern-based company didn't pay that big of wages, so I left and went to logging. I've been a logger ever since. And then I went back to the bat mill back in the 90s and retired from there.
Did you get a sense when you're working there that here comes the standing timber, you're cutting it, and then sending it down to Louisville for a final product of what you were doing? I mean, did you get a sense of it all?
Yeah, I did, and I always wondered who ended up with that bat. We'd make some just perfect, absolutely perfect. And you know it was going to the major leagues.
Right.
You always wonder where that ended up, who had it. Like up to the Cooperstown Hall of Fame, I was up there, and seeing all these bats from different players and stuff, and wonder how many of them I made. And I sold a lot off my own property. I have a big wood lot, and I know they made it to the major leagues because they were just perfect bats. But like I was telling Randy earlier, guys like Derek Jeter, Louisville made sure they had a bunch of bats ahead for him. He had a certain weight, length, everything had to be perfect. And he probably used some of the bats I made just like some of the other superstars because they were just perfect. That was kind of neat thinking about that.
Yeah.
But you never know where they went after they left you. But
Did you ever get a visit from the Louisville Slugger representatives? I know Pee Wee Reese, for example, worked for years with Louisville Slugger. That was
yeah.
None of those guys ever show up?
None of the big names ever showed up.
Yeah,
just like Jack Hilrich and these guys, they'd come up to the plant and stuff, but they never had any of the guys from Major League Baseball up there. So
What kind of lumber was it?
that was all ash then.
Yeah.
And that was the late 90s. They started going to maple after the Barry Bonds thing and all that. They started going to hard maple, which Louisville made more of them down in Gailton, PA than in Akeley, because our northern hard maple is heavier than it is down there. And big problem with hard maple is the weight. It's hard to get major league bats out of them because they weigh so much. But we never liked running the hard maple as well. It's not pretty like the ash. That's why all the maple ones are painted. You don't care. They don't have pretty grain. That ash had that beautiful straight grain in it. And miss running them. Made a lot of them. A lot of them went right to the pros too.
What's the status now of the Akeley plant?
Well, they're still finishing up some ash. There won't be much more. This summer will probably be all of it because half the ones that get in now aren't good. They're running soft maple for little league kids and stuff to use. Major leaguers can't use them. But of course they're still making hard maple bats down to Gailton, PA.
So the ash, what few there are still finding their way to Louisville?
Yep, they're still making them up there. I went by there when I went up to Keys today, and they have quite a few ash logs yet. A lot of them aren't real high quality because some of them have been dead for a little while, and that's not good. Sad. I miss having all the ash trees around, but nothing you can do about it. They're gone.
So at some point there's going to be the last ash bat coming out of Akeley. Randy, I'm just saying, you should be there when it drops out.
Yeah.
Put in a significant offer saying, I want that one. Yeah. So what's the question I should be asking you, Dave? I feel like there's something you're holding back on me here.
No, I don't know. We pretty much covered State Line and Akeley. That's about the story of my life.
Got any stories on Randy Anderson?
No, doggone, not yet. I got to do some digging.
Okay, call me. He's got something to show you.
Well, you need this for the camera. This is a picture of Dave
Oh,
in
there it is.
1967.
67, there it
Zoom in
is.
on that and get that picture
Let
of
me pull
Dave.
back. Where are you, David?
Up in the left-hand corner.
Right there.
Number 34.
Oh, there we are. Oh, this is outstanding.
So I did race the year after because I painted it blue.
What color was that car, Dave?
Black and white.
Yeah.
That's all I had was black and white paint and a paintbrush. That's how we painted it.
Where did your number come from, Dave?
That was my basketball number when I
Ah.
played with Keith in school.
Okay. Back when the referee was just going, foul, 3, 4.
Yep.
What kind of player was Keith?
Great. He was a shooter. He was one of them gunners. I have my basketball album at home, and my mom cut out all the things from the papers. And of course, my pictures in more than him because they always went underneath the bucket where the action was.
Yeah. So he's just out there looking for the long shot. In
Yeah.
today's world, he'd be a three-pointer, right?
Yeah, well, he'd be loving that.
He was the Steph Curry of Russell.
Yep, but yeah, we played against a lot of New York State teams then, the O Tender Boys and this and that. We played against Mo.
Mo.
Yeah, Randy was already at Jamestown Community, I believe.
Well, this has been great, Dave. Thank you very much. And now we're going to have Keith talk about you.
Thank you.